just finally, just to clarify, Hassan, I can't quite work out whether you said you do think October the 7th was an unjustified act of revolution or whether you changed your mind. So can you clarify?
I think that violent means of maintaining an apartheid is inevitably going to yield violent retaliation.
So
this
was it justified?
Something that is completely avoidable.
Was it justified?
Civilian deaths are never justified.
You know what, Hassan?
Hang on, Emily.
Hang
on, Emily.
You look Hirsch Goldberg Poland's mother in the eyes. No, you look this person's mother in the eyes and you tell him that this was justified. You tell him his arm being blown off and being held in captivity for 200 days is justified.
I do love that the Israel defender has no capacity to fucking hear anything I'm saying.
Palestinians who are made of identity.
It just... If you're not going to respect me and
think
listen
that
to what
we're
I have to
occupying
say,
the West
which, by the
Bank?
way, of course you don't respect.
Gaza.
Oh, if you talk
Look
over each other,
happened.
nobody can hear you.
I just
What do you mean I think? It's not I think. It's not I think. It's the entire world knows.
No, it is you think.
Hang
The
on,
only thing that
Emily,
promotes
please.
your narrative.
Let me handle this, Emily. Hassan, just before I come to the two people who are with me here, I just need some clarity here because it seems like you're dancing around whether you think October the 7th was justified or not.
Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this back and forth masturbation? I've already given you my fucking
Pierce, why
position.
Are you doing this?
I'm sick and tired of repeating it
being
over and over again.
Okay,
because it's Jews, it's okay.
Ask this
Emily,
demon next to me wearing a fucking IDF dog tag.
Only when it's Jews, it's okay.
Please stop shouting at each
demon next
other.
to me wearing an IDF dog tag if she actually thinks Israel's actions are justifiable.
Bring them home.
Do you
it's
see
to bring
me
the
rocking the
hostages
fucking...
home. The hostages
all right,
that you
you're talking
rightly
over each
believe
other.
belong in
All
the
right, you know what it
tunnels
is.
of Gaza.
I'm going to give you two. I'm going to let you two calm down. It's pointless. We cannot hear you when you talk over each other.
Troll people.
Every time recently, I have someone from both sides on. Like it goes like this.
Yeah, I always want to ask who else is going to be on the show before you do that. All right, so there were some claims made by fondly known as Genocide Barbie in the marketplace. I'll credit Sabrina. Sabby Sabs, I think, was the first to have a title that was snappy like that because I think that moniker might stick. She said early on in that conversation that Israel gave the Palestinians the West Bank and Gaza, that there were no Jews in the West Bank. That's not true. They got a lot of settlements. And there was a point where Hassan could have retorted with the fact, because there was a question about hostages. They've taken 8,400 hostages. They, being Israel, hostages are Palestinians. 8,400 of them since October 7th. That's a substantial fact because West Bank didn't have anything to do with 10-7. They're run by the Palestinian Authority, not Hamas. So it's convenient to the ethnic cleansing and genocidal plan that has been in place the whole time, that while everyone's looking at Gaza, they're running a whole bunch of military settler ops over in the West Bank and kidnapping a whole lot of people. How many people? I don't know. Like 8,000 more than Hamas took. I mean, Hamas didn't take 400 hostages. So, and this whole thing about getting the hostages back, the Hannibal Directive made sure that most of the hostages did not leave the boundaries to be taken. So there's also that in play. And I don't think that that's being recognized on the battlefield yet. But was there anything in there that would shock a person like you, Scott?
Dude, that was wild. That was a very entertaining media block there. So, yeah, that was what I had to look at who that lady was. So when you say Genocide Barbie, you talking about the blonde lady that was
Emily? Yeah.
Emily. Okay. Yeah. I had no idea who that lady was. So I was like, I caught the name Emily, so I typed in Emily Pierce Israel and found out. So it's a lady named Emily Austin. I guess she's like 23 years old. She has a basketball podcast and is a judge for Miss Universe. So like those are her credentials, right? And I guarantee, like, based on what we learned earlier, I bet she gets paid way more than $50,000 to do that type of rhetoric on that type of public stage. The astroturfing, right? The whole astroturfing.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee she done astroturf to that face of hers. That's for sure, dude. I'll tell you what.
Well, and she's a natural blonde, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. But man, yeah, that was insane. I just but I mean, I thought that Hassan guy was pretty funny. Like in his company, he was like tell this demon next to me. Like, just that guy was cracking up.
Dude, I don't even know who the fuck you are. You're talking all British and shit about
yeah.
you're both sidesing it.
Yeah, that was amazing. I thought that was great. That was very entertaining. So, I mean, you know, so there's something to be said about the clickbait nature of all this at the expense of all these people, and people are just kind of just, you know what I mean? But it's like that was like sensational for the point of sensationalism. Like, are we trying to? It's like, you know, like we say with the original meaning and purpose of debate was that both sides genuinely want to arrive at the truth. We're both trying to get a solution. We're both trying to move the needle towards actually coming up with something that benefits both of us. But stuff like that, it's like, no, that's not the point at all. We're just trying to create the most sensational thing possible for clicks at the detriment of you know, other people. So I don't know, man. Although it's very entertaining. That's a society we live in, man. Like great. I don't know. But that was wild. That was
I think
wild,
there's
the whole
also
thing.
opportunity for like a better process and maybe some like rules of engagement, yes, but also like rules of evidence like you would have in court. So if
Mhm.
we were in court and I want to put something in evidence, the other side gets to challenge it, and then it's deliberated upon whether or not it goes into evidence, right?
Mhm.
So when she says, "You're a liar, you're a liar, you're libeling," Yoav Gallant definitely said that, and it's not just my Twitter you can believe, and it's not just Al Jazeera. You can see the video where he says it himself and the whole thing. But even though they might not control all the electricity, like here's a we are imposing a complete siege. Let me make it. There will be no electricity, no food, no water, no fuel. Everything will be closed. We don't need to hear him say it again. We've played it before on the show. The point is, this is not Hamas propaganda. This is just news reporting. Okay. And for people to say, oh, he couldn't carry out that threat. I don't give a fuck. He couldn't carry out that threat. That is some ethnic cleansing / genocide terminology there. And when a large percent of that population, half of those 2 million people are women and children, civilians, and you're not going to make you're not using human intelligence, signals intelligence, sending in your best and bravest IDF people to get the bad guys. No, you're not. You're waiting and collecting a whole bunch of names, 34,000 people on the kill list through the Lavender AI, and then you wait for daddy's home to ding you guys so you can fucking go bomb a whole family of 3 generations, 4 generations of people living together. And then oops, what do I know, right? Isn't there an emoji for how they act about this? It's the whatever guy, you know? It's like, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? We got you. So I don't know. If you thought we were in the submissive state when we took the USS Liberty attack and did nothing, it's like they're just straight up using our tax dollars and telling us, you'll send more, you'll send quicker. We want the extension quicker. Biden's like, we're sending the bombs today, boss. Right? Like he's hopping to it. And you saw what Genocide Joe said in that earlier clip when he was a lot more lively and going around going, oh, this is how it works. I believe him. It's one of the few cases I think he's telling the truth. I think that's what's going on for sure. And
if Israel didn't exist, we'd have to do our own Holocaust and make it happen.
If Israel didn't exist, the MI6 and CIA would need to create it or something like that. That's
exactly
how that would need to go down. So there are more clips. There's all these bound up, like hands tied behind their back, dead bodies being exhumed at all these different hospitals. Because remember, after they got the Al Shifa one past everybody, I think they hit like 23 more hospitals because they're like, we got a blank check to hit hospitals. All you got to do is say Hamas is inside and we can bomb them. Same thing. They can bomb in an Iranian embassy. All they have to do, like, because there's a rule. It says you can't hit, like, that's a sovereign building. You can't hit that. And they're like, but Hamas, there was a Hamas guy in there. They were doing some Hamasi stuff in there, and we couldn't send a team, so we just had to blow up the whole building from afar, right? So again, we're noticing patterns. I know is it 2024? Noticing is still legal right now, so we are allowed to notice these patterns as they continue to kind of pull like it's not pulling the Palestinian flag out of our eyes, but like they're pulling the wool over our eyes with these patterns until you discern them, and then you're like, oh, wait a minute, another thing that happened that is greatly exaggerated to one side and one side only to make the other side look like a terrorist. It's been 20 years. I've seen this propaganda before.
Absolutely.
It may not repeat, but it sure does rhyme. That's what Mark Twain would say if he was here today. So with that, were there any clips, LD or Scott, that you guys had seen during this week that you thought should go in this week's time capsule for those folks in the future who are interested in what happened in the past?
Oh, man. Dang, I should have pulled a clip on this. It was I mean, just in Tennessee, man, I got to say, I'm in Nashville, those of you guys that don't know, but Tennessee has just been crushing it with all these crazy laws that they're passing, like the geoengineering bill. Like, apparently, I just did a big interview on my show about that, but they passed a law that makes it illegal to geoengineer in the skies of Tennessee. That it goes into effect July 1st. So there's a lot of confusion. A lot of people around here hear about the bill, and then you look up at the sky and it's like, but they're still spraying like crazy. But apparently that goes into effect July 1st. And I was at an event over the weekend and interviewed one of the gals who was kind of in charge of that. And she said that they're adding more legislation this coming year to add more teeth to it and enforcement mechanisms and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool stuff. Just all kinds of stuff. They just passed a bill for death penalty for child rapists, which is interesting. Like, it's an interesting one. Like death penalty in general. Like, should the state have the ability to kill people? Like, I don't know. Like, we're like not really big into the state around here, I know, but still, as a gesture, like that's kind of an interesting thing. Like, go Tennessee type of thing. You know what I'm saying? But and then the lettuce, like we got to honor at this children's health defense thing over the weekend the two senators that were that sponsored and got that bill passed that made all lettuce or vegetables that have mRNA vaccines are now supposed to be categorized as medical products rather than food. And they have to be like clearly labeled here in Tennessee. So it's like all kinds of crazy stuff are happening here. I'm just like, damn, go Tennessee. So
is that the first state to make a label like that mandatory?
I don't know 100%, but I feel like they're just kind of ahead of the curve on all these things, man. Like, I don't know. It's weird. Yeah.
Well, that's good because people, they need food. We need food, right?
Yeah.
We eat it several times a day if we're in good standing with our surroundings. And for them to kind of put not food in with our food and like, we have to draw a line someplace. Would you like to draw it in 2 decades when it's like we've already got those hybrids growing inside of us or what have you? Genetic experiments that the eugenicists who practice eugenics historically in the 20th century, like they're not done with their 20th century project. It continues into the 21st century. And if we don't want to pass it on to the next generation, like some ill disease, then we need to learn how to treat it now. And I'm not talking about cleansing. I'm just talking about recognition of things as they are and maybe doing other things with our actions.
Yeah.
It's a very peaceful idea. It
totally.
says, no, thank you, please. And if more people said, no, thank you, please, then there'd be a whole lot less support for the genocidees or the genociders.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there was one more bill passed this last week, which was arming teachers. Like teachers are allowed to like carry weapons like in schools now, which was funny because I was watching some of the local news coverage on that and the lefties were freaking out and losing their mind. They're like, how much gun violence is enough? They're like laying down, like playing dead, like at the, Capitol and stuff. And it's like, I mean, you guys just really don't understand any of this stuff. It's just funny. It's funny to observe. And then that was the other thing. I heard a soundbite. Okay, for example, back to this, the death penalty for the child rapist case. Like there was a lady who was arguing in opposition to that, and her argument was like, well, you right wingers, you're pro-life. Like, isn't that a contradiction that you're supporting the death penalty when you're all pro-life and stuff? And it's like, and she's like, no, I'm not defending the rapist here, right? I'm not defending the rapist here, but I'm just pointing out this inconsistency. And it's like, so, and like, but to me, it's like in their ideology, like in their worldview, like you kind of are defending the rapist a little bit, right? You're like just a tad. It seems like you're actually running cover for the rapist, but then you'll probably go to the next legislative session after this and advocate for, abortion and the death of the baby, right? So it's like in your worldview, you're arguing to keep the rapist alive and then immediately to kill the baby. It's like, dude, It's crazy. It's crazy.
Well,
crazy.
if you do it the other way around, they keep the baby alive and then give it to the rapists. So
Exactly.
kind of like, they design win-win situations for them, not for us, right?
Totally.
So
Totally. So it was a very noticeable just kind of inconsistency and all that. I just like, man, like, so anyway, long story short, moral of the story, like Tennessee's just crushing. So
except you guys, isn't Ben Shapiro's whole operation there?
yeah, Daily Wire.
You gotta weigh that. You gotta weigh that too a little bit.
Dude, that's true. That's true. I mean, yeah.
It's like your carbon credits, man. What are you doing to offset that stuff? That makes a lot more sense. That you're offsetting it. We're
good. Offsetting it pretty dramatically. Pretty dramatically. It's almost at net zero with Daily Wire. Net zero Daily Wire, baby. Keep it coming.
They're working on net zero. They're just cutting all their ties with productivity and success over there.
What makes the Grand Theft World podcast unique, invigorating, exciting, and informative? Most other podcasts out there are either doing straight up interviews or they're just covering the daily news. They're covering current events from the day they happened. And that is effective. It's useful. It's a great starting point. And then sometimes these current events change during the week past the first story. So we like to give it a little time. You have to wait till some of the dust settles on these stories in order to give them accurate coverage. And the other thing that's really missing in the media landscape is covering the articles that are coming out every day. That's great. That's necessary. But who's bringing in contextual history so that you can understand what has been going on for decades and decades to lead up to the machinations and actions that we see unfolding today? So what we do here on the podcast is we cover current events. Many of these things are censored, but we wait about a week. As a forensic historian, I focused mainly through my career on the history of globalism and collectivism and things that they call maybe the New World Order. There's a lot of facts to these sort of circumstances, groups, events, activities, working groups that they've had over time. So for Grand Theft World listeners, we not only break down the current events, most of which that are censored during the week, we provide you with contextual history, we give you the source notes, the references, we do deep dives, and this really empowers you with an understanding of context and history so that you can make more informed decisions in your life. There's also a community, a membership where you guys can actually ask questions and we can get into the show and we can share evidence. And there's a town hall weekly for Grand Theft World for those who listen to it and are interested in covering the stories that we don't get to during a 6-hour show. Listening to it an hour a day, you could easily consume the week's news, but you're going to have substance and meaning and context and understanding. And with that, you can make higher quality decisions in your life. So if you're interested in more quality in your life, go to grandtheftworld.com, click podcast at the top, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
These allegations are false.
This isn't Grand Theft Auto, folks. This isn't a video game.
What are the most surprising things that you discovered once you started pulling on that thread? Who he was connected to, what institutions he was influential over, what events he participated in?
Come on, man. What are we talking about? Come on, man. No.
You don't have to think about it, dude.
I got this quote because you said you didn't know much about Klaus Schwab. I made it my job to, as soon as this happened, I'm like, okay, this guy's their front man. Let me learn about the official history of the World Economic Forum. I got their 40-year history. I got every book that Klaus Schwab has written or ghostwritten. I went through those books. This is one of the most interesting passages.
Come on, man. Come